Hello everyone, friends. This is Mozart. It's been a while since I made any videos, but overall, nothing much has been happening. Bitcoin continues to hover around a certain range, and the width of the fluctuations in this range is starting to narrow. And all this accumulation, such a prolonged buildup, usually precedes very serious movements. Very serious. And considering that the weekly time frame is still upward, I still believe that there is a greater likelihood that this movement will be upward. And all the targets I mentioned earlier, where the marks were at $80,000, even $90,000, are still relevant for now. For the same reason, I am not selling my medium-term positions. I showed them in my Telegram channel. I am holding everything, and overall, everything there is still relevant. My main focus is on the third quarter of this year, which includes October, November, and December, and is starting very soon. In just 10 days, September, a historically weak month, will come to an end. October will begin, and then the elections. Cryptocurrency has always performed well during elections, especially in November and December, and so on. Moving on, what else can be said here? So, the long position was completely closed. In profit, 53,900 entry points. This was all in the Telegram channel. Considering the double size volume, I wrote everything down, plus 21% for me. According to the positions for the average exit, now I just place two limit orders. That is, a short at 63,900 on the top and a long at 59650 on the bottom. That is, these are just the boundaries of one so-called alligator mouth. That is, your own trio of moving averages 50, 100, and 200. Here, you can essentially take the opposite limit, meaning what's the point if the first limit for a long position is triggered, then the take profit will be the only one. And here the reversal to short is exactly the same as the opposite. If you short, you are the only one, and here the reversal to long. Accordingly, the stop for short, the stop for long. And as long as the current sideways movement continues, from my point of view, this picture will remain. From above, one can protect a long portfolio, while from below, one can try to go long, considering that the week is upward. I would like to remind you that the stops here are trigger-based, meaning they are conditional. The upper level is the daily candle closing above the red line, and the lower level is below the red line. Accordingly, here is the standard volume of pending orders, with a double bottom in case something abnormal starts. If suddenly there is some kind of collapse in the third world or something else, I don't know, it will begin. So here are two limit orders of double size volume. The standard volume ones are purple, and the double size ones are blue. 53900 was a double size. Moving on. Regarding the intraday timeframes, it can be said about Bitcoin that yesterday it digested Pavel's speech quite well. In other words, it moved upward. It moved upward. It feels pretty good having broken through the trend line, specifically the trend line based on the peaks. This is now a support level, and if we look deeper, we have a consolidation above the triple top, but already on the 4-hour chart of the main moving averages, and above the weekly are three pivot, and at the same time on the volumes, and also above the trend line. And even here there is a drawdown for trend continuation, and there is something to reverse essentially. It looks around 64,500. Plus, according to the indicators, it cannot be interpreted as a divergence in any way. Well, in no way does this fall under divergence. That is to say, from my experience, this is consolidation. This is consolidation, but within the framework of an upward sideways trend. In other words, it is quite difficult to classify this as a divergence because it is non-expressed. More often than not, such matters develop on their own path depending on external factors, rather than on the fact that here the divergence and purchases are fading. No, it's complicated. It doesn't fit the divergence. Divergence is like this. We have the first peak, then the second peak, and this is how the first peak and the second peak look. This is divergence. And this is just consolidation within an upward sideways trend. Therefore, I wouldn't recommend shorting from the current levels with the expectation that this divergence will play out. It would be good to set limit orders higher and lower, considering the entire daily range. And now let's move on to the most interesting part, to what I want to show you in the blockchain. So, what do we have that is interesting in the blockchain? The picture of the average purchase price of short-term holders looks very interesting. These are the holders who bought Bitcoin no later than 1 month ago. These are all wallets in the range of 1 week to 1 month approximately. The most pronounced among them are the purchases. And such a split, I repeat, I have already written about this on Telegram, has never happened after the halving. There has never been such a long consolidation after the halving. Usually, everything happened much faster. And the money that came from the spot ETFs on Bitcoin is what broke this cycle, because this volume of money supply has slightly changed the rules of the game. And this is how long the price moved and wiped out all the short-term traders, just completely gutted everyone, just like that. I don't recall anything like this, especially after the halving. Well, even if we need to count from here, it's right there. It turns out that we break through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times during one sideways movement. There is no trend here. It's just a sideways movement within the daily time frame. A wide sideways movement in the range of $50,000 to $70,000. But this sideways movement is declining. And 13 times we pierced through and simply carried out most of the short-term traders. The market is cleared. And regarding the funding, I showed you this after Telegram. That is, the funding has changed not to purely negative, but in more than 50% of cases over the last month, it has been negative. And if we look at the history of at least the last year, such conditions on a regular trend have preceded the formation of a bottom and the subsequent continuation of the main trend, in this case, the weekly upward trend. Moreover, we have the so-called MVRV parameter, which is market value divided by realized value. That is, this is a parameter across the entire market that shows profit or loss, indicating where the entire market currently stands, without any inaccuracies, meaning without any caveats about whether these are short-term or long-term investments, or whether they are Bitcoins from Satoshi or BlackRock. It doesn't matter. All the Bitcoins that exist now, where they are located. So, right now we have the state of the blue line, the so-called equilibrium line, which is our average line over all time. The average over all time is called the cumulative average. If we look at bull markets and bear markets, the middle line has always been support. For bull markets, it has been resistance, and for bear markets, it has been support. There's no need to look far. So, we have the support from 2021, the Chinese ban, and the current support, along with the decline of the current sideways movement, just like resistance after the start of the bear market accordingly. And if you look at the same year 2019, for example, it was already resistance here. You can go even further back and see that everything was basically the same everywhere. That is, in 2016, it also acted as support for this line. Everything that was closer to it served as support. Then it acted as resistance in the bear market, and so on. So right now, the average MVRV in the market, cumulative, is about 0.88, which means 88% profit. I am still talking about all Bitcoins, including the lost ones that were mined at a price of $0.001. It averages the cumulative average, 88 cents, and we tested it twice, even 3 times in this sideways market. There is also another metric that shows a very similar picture, but not based on MVRV, not on the average profit loss across the entire system, but on the number of offers in profit. That is, there is a similar cumulative average here, which is currently at 74%, 74 to 75%. This means that approximately 3/4 of the total supply is currently in profit on average according to the cumulative average. We have also tested it. The principles of operation are exactly the same. That is, only a little bit. The angles might be unequal. Here is 2021, then resistance in bear markets, and here is the current sideways movement. We have tested it 3 times. The same can be observed in 2016. Essentially, it will act as support for the cumulative average and then also as resistance. By the way, I didn't mention that for MVRV, we have one standard deviation above and -1 below, and here we have the same, +1 and -1. That is, as a rule, the top is the level of global resistance, and the bottom is the level of global support. The lower we go, the better the entry point. The higher we go, the better the selling points, accordingly. Although this often happens like this in regular markets. For example, we hit like the stochastic does. If you open it, it's the same. Like the stochastic, we can hit it for a while. That's why I never close the entire position at once. I take profits in parts, both in the medium term and long term, and at the top. But down below, this happens rarely. From the bottom, we hit much less frequently. For example, we hit twice. Here we hit a bit, and here we hit a bit. But from the top, prices spend more time in bull markets. There you go. Both of these parameters show the overall market average. We have tested the average lines for both MVRV and the number of offers in profit. And if this is a bull market, if we want to move forward, this is generally sufficient. Basically, I was the one who went below the previous low, and the previous low was around $48,000 to $50,000. On August 5th, it was August 5th. Well, it's not so much undesirable as it is impossible. It really is impossible now, because below that, the situation from 2019 will start below. In other words, we will most likely fall below these lines, down here, and they will become resistance. And we will go ahead and close the gaps there down to 40, and maybe even down to the 30s. But I lean more towards the first option, especially as we enter the last quarter of this year. Somewhere after the consolidation, the growth will continue. The dominance is almost 60% already. If we look at this dominance, it's time to give up on Altera. So how much longer can dominance continue to grow? Moreover, if we look at the trend in dominance, it is not strong at all. He is not strong at all. So right now we are seeing a fading of this trend. This is a weekly time frame, so we have this indicator. Here's the fading, fading, fading. By the way, this can be more closely related to divergence. Although this is more of a consolidation in an upward trend, it is more than that 4-hour chart I showed in the example with Bitcoin's price at the beginning of this video. Here we have consecutive peaks, but there are no strong peaks or significant spikes in the indicator. Plus, some gaps are almost closed, and there is still room to shoot up. Here, we can close, and this is the main resistance level, although we can also stop here. There are mirror levels as well. This is how it looks in terms of dominance. Okay, Bitcoin will decide to go to 70, 80, something like that, and it will start distributing altcoins. That would be a good scenario. Especially good for me and for everyone who is holding altcoins with me. Well, that's all I wanted to say. Basically, there's nothing more to add. I provided all the entry points. And the current state of the market was discussed. If anything changes, I will record a video, but I always post updates first in my Telegram channel. The link to it is in the description below this video. Thank you all. This was Mozart. Have a good day, a great weekend, and goodbye to everyone. Oh, wait. What weekend? Tomorrow is Friday. With this sideways market, all my charts have shifted. Sometimes I even forget what day it is. So, have a great Friday, everyone, and then a weekend. That's it. Goodbye, everyone.